Let me ask you a question. Have you ever experienced terror? I'm talking about real terror. Of course, like most people, you've probably been scared before. You know the feeling of your heart skipping a beat, your pulse racing. However, terror, this is a whole nother story. It's something completely different. And in my mind, it's a word that people overuse when they're telling their stories. What I experienced, I don't even think the word terror does justice to the feelings and the emotions that I had. But let me start here. I never knew my mother. I was raised by my grandparents because, frankly, my mother was not really a good person. It took her years. I'm talking about years to get her stuff together. My entire childhood, she was a drunk. And in my teen years, she turned to prostitution. Now understand, the entire time I knew my mother was alive, I had seen pictures of her, but I had never met her. It wasn't until I was 26 years old that my mother came around, reformed, and wanted to meet me. I remember being extremely nervous to see her. Only thing I'd ever seen was pictures of her. And when the day came, let's just say it was a tad bit underwhelming. She looked like she was 65 years old, wrinkled. She had a tattoo of a deer in the center of her chest. The antlers went up around her neck on each side. She had blonde hair tied into a bun with this blue ribbon awkwardly tied around the front of her forehead. And the first words that came out of my mother's mouth were, "You know it wasn't that I didn't want you, right? You understand that, right, son?" As she's saying this, tears are falling down out of her eyes. She goes on to explain to me that she was strung out on drugs and she didn't want me to grow up in that type of environment. So she asked my grandparents to raise me. Stepping back, she looks me up and down and smiles and says, "It looks like I made a great decision because you look like you turned out to be a really good young man." Well, the next few weekends, she comes back in town more often. And eventually we get to the point to where she invites me to spend a weekend with her. I remember talking to my grandfather about it and asking him if he thought it was a good idea. And he told me the only way I was going to get to know my mother was if I spent time with her, and that he felt like she had really turned a corner and made a change. Next thing I know, I was in my car riding to meet her, Broken Bow, Oklahoma. Now, let me say this. What my mother did not tell me and did not disclose to me was that she was living on a plot of land with other people. Now, I really wouldn't call what she was involved in a cult, but it sure as hell felt a little bit like a cult when I got there. The people were overly excited to see me, over touchy, over feeling, extra welcoming. Listen, it was really some weird shit, man, to have strangers walk up to you who you never knew and was like, "Oh, welcome to our family." I'm talking about 29 people came out to meet me, and they all said that they were family. And it was about 5 minutes after that I met their leader. This guy walks out and introduces himself as Reese. Now pause right here and let me say this for a moment. Reese was clearly going for the Native American angle, but Reese was white as snow. He wasn't no Native American man. This was a white guy. He walks up to me, hugs me, and tells me that the Great Spirit is happy that I came to be with them for a short time. And then we have this huge feast. I'm talking about a massively huge meal, a table seating 30 people. Reese, of course, sitting at the head of the table. Now, when I tell you this entire situation was super duper uncomfortable for me and I felt out of place, I mean, I really did feel out of place. But I waited until after the meal to speak to my mother about it and explain to her exactly how uncomfortable I was in this situation. During that conversation, she claimed that it was Reese and the rest of the people who she called her family that helped her get her life in order. Then my mother hit me with a guilt trip for the very first time. She says, "I understand if you don't feel comfortable and you want to leave, but I just wanted to spend time with you." So now I'm standing there thinking to myself, shit, it's only 2 nights. Hang out with your mom, try and figure out what's going on, and then you can go back. And if she invites you to come back again, you tell her you're not comfortable and you tell her to come see you. That's all you got to do. You know what I'm saying, man? Just take it easy. It's only 2 nights. What could go wrong? Well, let me say this. A hell of a lot went wrong in those 2 freaking nights. The first night, I awake at 2 a.m. to the sound of people talking outside of the window. I look out there and there's no one there, but I can hear what sounded like people talking on the other side of the window. I stand there for 10 minutes and listen to this audible conversation and there's no one there. And listen, as I'm hearing these audible voices, I got the heebie-jeebies. I'm talking about hairs are standing up on my arm, chills are running up and down my spines. This is not normal. But eventually, it goes away and I settle down and go back to sleep. The next morning, I ask my mother if she heard anything and she says no. Then we have breakfast and then everybody meets up in the center and we go for a walk in the woods. But before we enter the woods, Reese stops and says a prayer, asking the woods to accept me and allow me to enter into them. Now imagine the scene. Everybody standing behind him in this freaking triangle formation, and he's at the very tip of the triangle with his arms up in the air, and then he just drops his arms and everyone follows him into the woods. Are you hearing me? We talking about some freaky, crazy shit. Now we're walking through the woods. People are picking flowers, some straight up hippie type crazy stuff going on. But I look at my mother and she's happy and she's healthy. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what? If this is what keeps you off drugs and keeps you out of the streets, so be it. Walk through the forest, picking leaves and picking flowers. Do whatever the hell makes your heart happy, Mom. Now, when we get back, we have salad for lunch. And much of the stuff that we picked in the woods is what everybody put in the salads. And quite frankly, it was pretty freaking good. Dinner time rolls around. Mom and I go get our food and come back to Mom's place. And we have a conversation. She opens up more about her life and the things she did and how she just wanted me to forgive her. And I'm looking in my mother's eyes and I realize that that's all she wants. She really wants me to forgive her. And I had no ill will towards my mother. So that night, I forgave her. And tears rolled down her face as she hugged me and thanked me for forgiving her. Next thing I remember is her going up into the loft and going to sleep, and me laying down thinking to myself, you know, this whole thing really was just about her getting forgiveness. Part of me wanted to be upset with her because she wasn't there, but another part of me just said, you know what? My mom's human. I'm human. Everyone is human. I need to let all that go and just forgive her. So I laid there and decided in my heart and in my mind that I really did forgive her. And that no matter what happened, that I would help my mother and I would do what I had to do to build a relationship with her. Now, I might not have the time exactly right, but I want to say it was about 1:10, 1:11 a.m. I had just kind of dozed off to sleep when I hear this breathing outside of the window. Kind of like, you know, a horse sounds when they snort air through their nose. Then, a few seconds later, I hear this sniffing, like something sucking air in through his nose and then snorting air out of his nose again. So I get up and walk over to that window and prepare to look out. Now wait, hold on for a second before I tell you what I saw. I don't think I've done true justice to the environment in which they were living. You know, you may be under the impression that they were in real houses, but they weren't real houses. These were tiny houses that everybody was living in. 30 feet by 8 feet with upstairs lofts. They were all on wheels. These were nowhere near being real houses. Now that you understand that I'm pretty much in a fancy box on wheels, I look out of the window and what I see is this head right there in front of the window, but it's not pointed in my direction. It's looking off to my left, its right. And in that moment, it just looks like this big old head of fur. Now, mind you, these are normal windows. You know, the kind that slide up and have the screen on the outside, and they're not closed. That's how come I was able to hear all these sounds outside. So I'm standing there looking, and then this thing walks away, never looking in my direction, going towards its right, my left, towards one of the other houses. It gets right there out of sight. And you know what I'm talking about. When you're looking through a window, there's a certain angle, no matter how far you go to one side, you can't see on that angle. It gets right out of my sight. And listen, I don't know if that was this thing's plan or if it just happened that way, but I'm there trying to look on that angle to see where it went, and it disappears. So now I move my face back to the center of the window, and the very first freaking thing I see are these ears start to rise up right in front of me. And when I tell you these ears were as big as my hand, that's how big these ears were. And they're moving back and forth. The next thing I freaking see is the crown of its head. Then I see the brow, and then the eyes come up, and I realize that I am face to face with this freaking thing. By the time I saw the entire head, snout included, I damn near pissed on myself, falling backwards away from that window. Coming to the realization that the only thing between me and whatever the hell that thing was this flimsy ass house. Now pause right here, let me ask you a question. At some point in time, everybody's done this. May have been at a hospital, might have been at a high school basketball game. You know how you put your money into the vending machine, right? And whatever you're buying doesn't fall all the way out of the vending machine. So you kind of put your hand on it and you rock the vending machine back and forth until it shakes loose. Well, that's what this son of a bitch starts to do to this tiny house. He starts to rock this tiny house like it's a freaking vending machine. Now I'm screaming. My mom wakes up screaming, and it's rocking the fuck out of us. I'm thinking we about to flip all the way over. This goes on for about 2 solid minutes. Shit is falling all over the place. Next thing I know, I start to hear gunshots outside, and then we slam to the ground. Bam! In one motion. 10 minutes later, everybody, I mean everybody's outside. Flashlights on, the lights are on outside, and I am freaking completely the hell out. And I'm telling my mother, I said, Mom, I'm about to leave. You need to come with me. That was a freaking monster. I don't know what kind of crap you guys got going on out here in the woods. It's everybody out there except for Reese. Then Reese comes walking out of the woods, walks directly up to me and says that he went into the woods and talked to the spirits of the woods, and they don't like me being there. So now I'm looking at Reese, looking at them, looking at my mom, looking at Reese, looking at them, looking at my mom. And I need you to understand this whole warm, loving group of people that was like, oh, your family, we're happy to have you here. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of love in these people's eyes. So Reese says, you're going to have to leave. Now I look over at my mother, make eye contact with her, and she puts her head down. And I said, you know what, Reese? You know what? You fucking right. I am going to have to leave. I'm definitely about to fucking leave this place, because y'all got a monster out here rocking around houses like vending machines. So you know what? I don't want to stay. I don't. Promise you, I don't want to stay. I go back into that house, dig through all the stuff that's laying around, find my backpack, find my bag, get my keys, get in my car, and I freaking leave. I leave right then and there, early in the morning, headed back to my grandparents' house. Now, get this. I don't hear nothing from my mama for a month. Nothing. Not a word from her for a month. I tell my grandparents about what happened. They don't believe me, but they believe the fact that my mama is not talking to me anymore. When I finally hear from my mother, she shows up at my grandparents' house and she's apologizing to me, saying that she's sorry that I had to leave and that the spirits of the forest really didn't like me, and, you know, she'll spend time with me here as opposed to there. And I tell her, I said, Mama, I need you to understand something. I find it real peculiar that when that thing ran off, Reese came back out of the woods. Now, I'm not saying that Reese is the one that summoned it. I'm saying that I think Reese was it. And Mama, if I was you, I would leave that place.